Pocket Money Podcast. More ways to being rich, there's more ways than one way to be rich. There's different types of being rich. Just like there's different types of being poor, right? Now, on average, most people just think of rich as being, just monetary, just money. And that is a form of richness. But here's the thing, though. You have to understand money, right? What's the purpose of money? It's not to have a lot of it, right? It's not to, have it in the bank and then be like, oh, look, I got millions of dollars in the bank. That's more of a vanity thing, right? You just like the idea of having a lot of money in the bank. But realistically, the purpose of money is to spend it, right? Because it's supposed to represent hard work, right? It's supposed to represent that you did something to earn it, right? To get the money. And now you can trade it, aka spending it, right? To get things you need, right? Things that matter. Money doesn't matter. It's what you do with it that matters, right? It's what you get with it that matters. That's why if you think about it, if you had $1 million and you spent $1 million on a bag of shit, literally just gave somebody $1 million, they gave you a bag of their own poop. You think that's special? You think that you bought something of value? You think you bought something that matters? Let's say it's Donald Trump's poop. Donald Trump sold you his poop in a bag for $1 million. To you, it might seem very valuable. To you, it might seem like that was a great purchase. That was a great use of your $1 million. But to many other people, they'll be like, oh, that's stupid. That's foolish. He literally gave you his poop for $1 million, right? So just imagine all the time and effort you put into getting $1 million just to trade it in for poop, right? Something that you really didn't need and it wasn't that special. So the thing is about, like I said, with money is that what you do with it that matters. So if you spend money on dumb shit, well, then the money definitely didn't matter because all you did was dumb shit with it. You didn't improve your life. You didn't improve the lives of others, right? You definitely didn't make the world a better place. God forbid you die, right? But let's say you die tomorrow after you spend your money on dumb shit. You think people are going to remember? You think you're going to be, in the history books, right? You think you're going to matter to future generations? No, because you spent the money on dumb shit. Now, if you spent the money on, let's say, creating an engine for a rocket ship, right? So for rocket, right? So that way we could travel around the universe. Well, then in the future, right? Future generations will know about you. Will know that you're the reason that, we have the technology. Let's say you create a warp drive or something. Okay, you put your money towards warp drive. Now we have warp drive. Now we can travel the universe and you'll be remembered for as long as, the human race, remembers, right? That matters, right? That's important, right? That's special. But it's not special that you bought a whole bunch of shoes that you're just going to wear until they're useless and then throw them out, right? I mean, it's dumb to buy a whole bunch of shoes and never use them, right? I mean, granted, if you collect shoes, you're a shoe collector. All right, whatever, to each their own. The point is most people spend money on dumb stuff, right? Stuff that's not that important. So it makes the money that they spent worthless. Which is why I'm saying it's like what you do with money is what makes it important, makes it valuable. So that's why it's like, since ultimately the idea is to spend money on stuff, what the stuff you buy, the stuff you have, that you have access to is what's important. So that's why, having your own farm, right? Having your own way of growing your own food supply, right? Having your own guaranteed supply of food so you don't have to rely on anybody else's supply of food. That right there is valuable, right? That right there, you can say you're food rich, right? Because you literally can guarantee you always have food, right? I mean, I always looked at farmers that way. I always looked at them as like, oh. I mean, they're rich because because one, they have food, so they never have. Because think about a farmer, right? Sells their crop, right? Sells their vegetables and stuff like that, and eggs from their chickens, right? to get money, right? Think about that, right? No, let's simplify it. They sell their eggs from their chickens, right? Think about how funny that is, right? Then they use the money to go buy eggs. Right? That's a little bit of a contradiction, but you'd be surprised that sometimes that does happen. I've seen shit like that before. I've known some farmers where they literally went to like a supermarket, because I was visiting them and stuff, and they went to a supermarket and they bought eggs, even though they have chickens on their farm and they have access to eggs. They still went and bought eggs, right? That seems a little funny. And granted, if they have a farm, they're more likely selling, so they're more likely selling their eggs. So whatever, to each their own, right? To each their own how they want to spend their money, right? But it's just the irony is like you literally have a supply of eggs. Why would you go buy some, right? It's like you have a whole bunch of water, but you go buy water, right? I mean, imagine buying water while you're in the ocean. That don't make no sense to buy something that's already there, right? But that's what a lot of people tend to do. They tend to buy stuff that they have access to. I've seen people who have like coffee machines and have stuff to make coffee, but they still go to like Starbucks or something and get a coffee, right? And their justification would be, it's like, oh, well, it was just easier. I was just in a hurry, blah, blah, blah. It's like, but you could make the coffee before you go to sleep. And then the next day, you could potentially reheat it or something. Or at least just prepare everything so that way the next day, as soon as you wake up, start the coffee, go take a shower. Because the time it takes for you to finish the shower, right? Finish showering and getting dressed and getting ready to go to work, the coffee will be ready so that you can have your coffee on your way out. So why? That's the thing. It's like, it's just, after a while, people just get lazy. So lazy, they don't even use their brain, common sense. And that's sad when people are so lazy, they don't even use their intelligence. To do things. But anyway, back to the idea of like different types of being rich, right? Is a lot of people like to think it's just money, right? It's just having a lot of money, right? Because even when I use the term like when I say I'm rich or I have a lot of money, people automatically assume that I have millions of dollars, and it's like that's not what I'm saying. I'm not yet a millionaire, but that is one of the goals, right? To become a millionaire. But that's not what I am. I'm rich as in I have way more money than I need, right? Even where I work at, I've been given raise, so I'm making more money than I was making before. But even I didn't want it, right? I'm like, it's not. You're already paying me a lot more than I really need, and I barely do anything. So why y'all paying me for all this extra? Why you paying me all this extra money when I barely do anything, right? That kind of stuff. So I just have that realistic mindset. It's like, I don't really. I've done some jobs where I did a lot of work, a lot of manual labor, and got paid less. At this job that I'm currently at right now, at work, I do way less, but I can make way more. So to me, I like to equate, actual hard work, right? Actual work with reward, right? But in this upside down world, literally me doing less work is more profitable, it's more beneficial. I make more money doing less work than I did when I used to do more work, right? But that's the world we live in. But this is why it's the whole work smarter, not harder thing. Because it's like, why work harder if you're going to get paid less when you can work smarter and get paid more, right? And this is why a lot of people want to be a boss. They want to be a CEO or manager or supervisor or something. They want to be in a position of power because there's more money in there. And I'm not against people getting the money, right? But again, like I said, it's not really about money per se, because ultimately you're going to use the money for something, so the money becomes irrelevant. So having a lot of it is nice, but it's pointless. It's what you do with it that matters. Therefore, having a lot of having guaranteed transportation, guaranteed food, guaranteed water, right? Guaranteed shelter, having things like that, having things that you really, really need and always have access to is what matters. If you can always guarantee everywhere you go, everywhere you travel, let's say you travel, well, if you can travel for free, that'd be awesome, right? If you can stay at places for free, that'd also be awesome. So these are the kind of things that, you'll want. So there's two terms, right? There's rich and then there's wealthy. Rich people tend to point out the difference between being rich and being wealthy. The thing about being wealthy is that it's more than money. It's beyond money. It's literally, just life, right? You live, you do the things you want to do, right? Within reason, of course. Do the things you want to do, and you don't have to worry about money. See, I like the idea of financial freedom, and not freedom as in because a lot of people like to think of financial freedom as freedom from like having a job. Me, I think of financial freedom as the freedom from money. So freedom from finance, because finance is money, right? Money is finance, finance is money. So the idea is to be financially free from money, right? Free from the need of it, the wants of it, right? Because when it's man-made, it's not something you need, it's just something that we use, it's something we created for the purpose of being able to interact with one another, a way to socialize, a way to be like, okay, well, I cleaned your backyard, all I expect in return is the $20 you offered me. And there you go. There's the trade, there's the deal, there's the agreement upon two people. It'd be nice if we could just do it without the physical aspect of money or, digital currency or something like that, right? It'd be nice if we could just be able to just verbally be like, hey, I'll do this for you, you do that for me, blah, 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 and we all can benefit from it. But that's not the situation that we're in this world. So we created something a little bit more balanced, control, whatever you want to call it, because if I'm right, part of what caused us to create money was the fact that we did have different methods of doing deals, of making arrangements, right, of making agreements with one another. And some people were cheating the system, as they say, right? Some people were being shady, some people were being douchebags. So some people, of course, were abusing the idea, the system of, the barter system, right? The system of, fair trade. I give you this, you give me that. I give you 8 apples, you give me 8 pears or some shit like that, right? And, and that would be like a fair trade. But some people would abuse it, but like, oh, my apples are much better, much more quality, blah, blah, blah. They're different than pears. They're not the same as the pear. So, like, why should I give you the same amount? My apples are worth more, blah, blah. That kind of stuff. And it created a problem where it made it hard to, trade when some people were assholes, right? When some people were literally stingy and, basically a form of inflation, right? The idea of like, oh, my stuff is worth twice as everybody else's stuff, so everybody else should pay me, give me twice the amount of stuff for my thing, for my apples, right? And of course, that was a problem because a lot of people would be like, well, no, your apples are not worth more than that guy's apples or that guy's apples. So then we needed some standard, right? Something that we can say that has the same value, right? It's the value system, right? So we created a value system, and we're like, okay, this piece of gold is worth these many apples, right? Let's say one piece of gold is worth 1 apple. Okay, there you go. So if you have 8 apples and I want those 8 apples, I'll give you 8 pieces of gold for 8 apples because they're of equal value. Because that's how we're going to do it. So that's why we created the value system, money and stuff like that. But like I said, ultimately, it was just so we can give each other some, the money, right? To give the money away to somebody so they can give us something in return. So we're supposed to give other people, I should say, money. That's what makes money valuable, right? Or useful, I should say, is when we give it away. So spending it and then getting stuff that we need, stuff that matters, like food, shelter, water, that kind of stuff. Obviously, there's stuff in this world that should be free. Shelter should be free, water should be free. Even food should be free, but that's for a different conversation. Since we do live in a world where it is about money, right? It is about resources. And the thing is, some people don't think about resources as important, right? They just think money, 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 and that's it. That's why they think having a lot of money is important, when it's really what you do with it that matters, right? So having a house, having a car, which is shelter, transportation, food, water, right? Safety. That stuff is more important than money. So that's why you would try to get as much security, much shelter, much food, as much water, right? As much transportation, options as possible to live your life, to do the things you want to do. That's why some people like myself, instead of owning a car, right, I'd rather do something like Uber per se. Even though, owning a car would guarantee I always have a vehicle, that I can use, and it would be useful, of course. But, I like to simplify things, and it's like, for now, in the future, I probably will get a car and whatnot, more likely a Tesla. But at the current point in time, I'd rather just pay somebody else to drive me around, because it's just a little bit more convenient, especially if I always have access to the people who drive me around. I'd rather go that route. But eventually, I will want my own form of transportation, because that's a guaranteed resource, right? Same thing as, I'd rather own a house than to rent it. Right now I'm renting, right? So I'm renting shelter. But at some point I would like to own shelter. Just like I would like to own land, so that way I can, build my shelter there, right? The way I want it. Have all the stuff that I need, water, electricity, all that stuff. But it'll be renewable, right? I use solar panels, all that good stuff. Use the best technology we have in mankind to live a much more truly rich lifestyle, because it's all about abundance, right? It's about for me anyway, it's all about always having what you need when you need it, right? Always having food is important. Not always having money to buy food, but always having food, because ultimately you're just going to convert money to food, right? And I always think about the idea that at some point money's going to be pointless. Right? Money's going to have less value, or something else is going to replace money. So chasing money just for the sake of chasing it, just for the sake of having it, is pointless. At some point, all the millionaires and billionaires that currently exist, or existed, exist as in, like, they were billionaires, 10 years ago. They still are, but 10 years ago is when they became billionaires or something like that, or millionaires, or just rich in general. At some point, because they weren't paying attention, they weren't preparing, suddenly all their money becomes useless. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying, in the near future, 10, 20 years from now, probably, cryptocurrency will be more important. And if all these rich people didn't make sure that a large majority of their wealth is in crypto, the chances of all their money being worthless all at the same time is pretty high. It's pretty possible. And it seems like the power at B would be interested in a different form of currency, a digital version, especially considering the fact that we're becoming a digital world. We're trying to do more and more stuff online, less offline. I am still old school, so I still prefer a lot of offline stuff. It just, online does open up opportunities to do things that otherwise would be difficult to do in the real world. It's cheaper for me to build multiple businesses that I make money from online than it is to try to physically do it. Find physical locations and hire staff and this, that. It's way cheaper to do things online, which is why I'm an online entrepreneur. And this is where I get lots of my money. It's from the stuff that I do online. But ultimately, I have to convert that money into useful stuff, right? Into stuff that matters. So you want to be resource rich as opposed to money rich. One, it's easier to be resource rich, right? Because if you have a farm, or you have some way of planting your own food and growing your own food, let's say you have the ability to grow food for, let's say, 20 years. Then think about that. That's essentially 20 years worth of money, so to speak, right? Because like I said, you mainly convert money into other things like food. So let's say you normally spend $100 a month on food, and for a whole year, that's $1,200 a year. So that's a little over $1,000 a year. Let's say 20 years, so that's over $20,000. So over $20,000 for 20 years of eating food, right? But if you have your own farm or your own way of growing food, right, your own way of having food, then you'll have, at least guaranteedly, right, you'll have the $20,000 worth of food, because you're literally going to produce it within that time frame, right? You're going to produce your food, right? Your own food. You're going to produce it, eat it, right? And you'll be able to do that for 20 years. You don't need to have the $20,000 now and then slowly over the course of 20 years spend the $20,000, right, to eat $20,000 worth of food in 20 years. You can literally grow it monthly, right? Grow the food, eat it, grow it, eat it, grow it, eat it. That way, every month while you're growing food, that's food for the next month. So the next month you'll be eating food while making new food for the month after that. So you'll be eating, monthly for 20 years, right? As an example. So, that's the thing I'm talking about, like the difference between like just money and, and then resource rich, right? Because ultimately, money is a resource, right? It's a resource that we create and we use. So, that's why I want to, focus on the idea of like, it's better to be resource rich than money rich, because it's easier. It's easier to be resource rich. Like I've mentioned before, that I have, power bank, solar power bank. I have like 4 of them, 2 that I carry with me on a daily basis, and the other 2 are at home. I have one that's very big. It's bigger than the ones I have, and it has extra panels, so it's meant to be obviously used mainly to absorb solar power, right, and charge it. And it's bigger, and if I'm right, it can charge. I haven't tried it yet. I should try it out, to charge at least a laptop. So it should produce more power and be able to charge more devices. But the power banks that I use are good enough to charge the stuff that I need to charge, mainly my LED light bulbs, my smartphone, obviously, and maybe any other device that requires charging. But mainly, I just need my smartphone, laptop, and light, right? That's what the light bulbs come in, and that's my main, the main things that I use electricity with is those things. And then, of course, the idea is to, take care of the whole water situation. Like right now, I have multiple gallons of rainwater that I collected, just from the window of my room, and I collected a whole bunch of rainwater, and I can easily use that to flush the toilet, right? I can use that to wash stuff, right? After I boil it, filter it, I can use it to wash. I can even use it to drink, right? If I use the filtering system. And that's where using your money comes into handy, right? If I still have to buy the filtering system, then I can filter out water in general, even filter out tap water, just in case tap water is not fully filtered. I can filter it extra, right, and make sure I have good clean water. But that's the idea, is like, once I get the filtering, then I'm able to make sure that even something like rainwater, river water, pond water, ocean water, right, I could filter it, clean it up and make it useful. Because, literally water is everywhere, right? Especially when it rains, bang, free water, right? That's why I, definitely should collect it and definitely should make use of it. Mainly right now, I'm just using it just for toilet water, because the bathroom gets used a lot, and that would be a waste of money constantly just flushing, right? So I'm literally flushing money down down the toilet. So if I just collect the rainwater, that's free water right there that I can use for the toilet, and bang, that solves that problem. As an example. Now, granted, people rather use money, right? It's like, I'd rather pay the water bill for the, and flush my toilet. It's like, all right, teach their own. If you rather do that, right, you rather, put more time and effort to get money than spend it, right? Because you gotta remember, unless you're getting money for free, you're more likely working for it. And if you're working for it, the idea of using it like, all right, I made all this money, but I'm going to use it to flush the toilet. I'm going to use this money to pay for light in my basement or in my attic or in the bathroom or something like that. Like, I'm just going to have the lights on, right? And have the lights on for like many, many hours and literally burning away money. And it's like, all right, here comes the electric bill. Time to give all this money to the electric company just because I had the lights on for too long, or I was using a lot of devices, or I just had a whole bunch of stuff plugged up, using up electricity, 24/7. So now I have to pay all this money that I worked hard for, right? Just because I had a whole bunch of stuff plugged up. When you can unplug it when you're not using it, so that way it doesn't charge you anything, because you're just literally wasting money by doing it. It's like buying a gym membership and never go to the gym. Think about how much of a waste that is. You're better off buying your own training equipment, right? Exercise bike, weights and stuff like that, like I do myself. And whenever you feel like exercising, then exercise. It won't cost you, other than buying the weights and the training equipment, right? And the exercise bike, other than buying those things, right? It's not going to cost you any more money than that, right? It's only going to cost you how much you spent on getting those things. If you got those things used, which would be logical, why not get used weights and use training equipment, for the cheap or for free. You could get stuff for free if you check out Craigslist, and that's nothing, right? Getting stuff for free. You don't have to buy everything. You could literally go on Craigslist, go to the free section, and find a whole bunch of stuff you want for free, or at least for cheap. Things don't have to be brand new. You can use old use, stuff and save, again, saving money is the same thing as making money. You rather save money, right, and have money, right? Even if you only have $10,000 or $100,000, you rather use that money for things that you really, really would like to spend money on, like trips, right, traveling the world, or medical expenses, right? Like for a really important, health-related surgery or something, right? Something that could save your life. You rather put money towards that than to put it towards electric bill, water bill, towards flat screen TV, and the list goes on, right? When a lot of stuff you could get for cheap. And another thing is look for discounts, and the list goes on. The main thing is, why spend more to get something when you could spend less or literally get it for free? So always look to see if you can get what you want for free. Always see if you can get it for cheap. And if you can't, then and you really, really need it, then pay the price, right? But on average, you'd be surprised how many things you want you can get for free or cheap, or for cheap or free. So that's something I've been doing for a long while now, is, getting things for cheap. Because, why waste money when I could save it for something a little bit more important? Preferably, that's why, since I'm saving money, obviously I put that money towards investments. Even I got, a couple of stimulus checks a while back. So that definitely helped me make more money. So that's where a lot of my money was from the stimulus checks, and then of course I invested in them and made it grow and grow and grow. Right now, so some of the stocks are liquidated, some of my stock investments, because they bear fruit. They were very profitable, and I definitely wanted to put them into other more lucrative investments, specifically dividend stocks. And I'm going into the whole crypto thing, so experimenting with crypto. I made a good amount of money off of Bitcoin, so definitely wanted to continue with the whole Bitcoin thing, as well as getting into other cryptocurrencies. So I invested in like 10 different cryptocurrencies right now, so something like that. So we'll see how they work out, how profitable they are, and that'll be one of the new things that I'm doing. Crypto trading or whatever you want to call it. A lot of people, make a lot of money off of it, so why not, right? Because that's the thing is, you want your money to make money. That way you always have money, right? Infinite money glitch, as they say. But another way to be, right, infinite, have a lot of money, right, is having things that are renewable. Renewable electricity, right, solar power, renewable water, right, rainwater, filter it, bang, right? Whenever it rains, you always, that's a guarantee you have water, at least for the future, right? I'm not saying I still have to, use the water that's in the house. It's just that I use less of it because, one, I'm barely in the house, so I use very little water at home. And then on top of that, collecting the rainwater. So that's even more or less water that I have to use. So that's just saving me money. In general, and saving money is like making money, right? Which means I can use that money to go invest and have the fun of investing. A lot of my investments where I liquidated and got the money is mainly because I wanted my initial investments back. I put the money in the stock market so I can make money, right? Obviously, but I didn't want to leave my money there. I put in over $1,000 in the stock market as an example. I'm not putting too much into it. I just wanted to test it out. But I want to at least start getting that money back, right? So that's why I started liquidating some of my stuff. I'm waiting for some of this, sales to go through. It takes a while, when you sell your stocks, it's not instantaneous. So it takes like 24, I think up to 48 hours or something like that, roughly, for some of the stocks to, finish processing. So still waiting for a lot of the money to come in. But once they come in, then I can start, investing into other things. Interesting enough, crypto buying and selling is faster. Interesting enough. So that's understandable why a lot of people are into crypto trading, because it is faster. So I sold my Bitcoin just to see how fast it sells, and it was pretty instant. So it's like, I like that. So that's a good thing. And then that means I have access to the money, so I can reinvest in other things. So I immediately started buying other cryptocurrencies afterwards. But like I said, resource rich, it's not that different from being rich, right? And a lot of people have different views of rich. And that's the thing I was trying to say. It was like, rich is not just having a lot of money all at once. Having the ability to always have money, or always get what you need, or always have what you need, is the other versions of rich. So I have money, right? Money. I got stuff that I invest in. I got stuff that's worth money. So if I was to sell that stuff, I have money, because all it is just converting. I have a whole bunch of stuff like cards. I'm into trading card games. So, I have some Pokemon cards that are worth some money. I got Yu-Gi-Oh! And that's worth some money. That some of them I am going to liquidate soon, because I want that money for my crypto trading and some of my other investments. Because they just, use the money to make money. And I have stuff that I can liquidate, right, turn into money, and use it to make more money, right? The infinite money glitch concept, right? And it'd be nice to have large sums of money all at once, but I don't necessarily need that. I just need to always make sure I always have what I need. And if all I need is $2,000 a month to live my life, then that's all I need. And through the methods and through what I'm doing, I'm able to do that. And that's the other thing, is try to not to live, or try to increase your lifestyle, right? Don't try to add more stuff to your life. Don't try to get more streaming services. Don't try to get more cars so that we have to pay more insurance and more gas and all this extra stuff, right? Pay for more space to, put your cars, and the list goes on. Like, if you want to do that, that's on you. You do you. I'm just saying that there are other types of rich. People just like to think that rich is just having a lot of money, having a lot of cars, a lot of houses, traveling around the world, eating expensive stuff, buying expensive stuff, and then that's it. And that's what rich is. It's like, nah. No, that's just people who, want to do a lot of stuff. They want to overpay for a thing. But that's not the only type of rich. That's just the most common version of rich, right? Which is like the concept of looking rich. Like, oh my God. Because there's some people who don't know my finances, don't know how much money I have, would look at my life, or try to look into my life and be like, oh, you're not rich, you're not this, you're not that. It's like, it's because I'm not doing what you think rich people do, right? I'm focusing on making sure that I have a nice, comfortable, sustainable life, as opposed to a exaggerated, embellished, over the top, lavish, whatever you want to call it, luxurious lifestyle. I'm not trying to have a gold toilet. I mean, I could afford a gold toilet, but that's stupid. I could afford gold paper toilet, but don't want that. I could afford, I could afford a Rolex. Wouldn't want to, because it's just, I'd rather invest that money. Or I mean to say, I'd rather have that money invested than to take the money out of my investments just to buy a Rolex, right? It's not that deep. Any regular wristwatch is enough. All that vanity stuff, that's what they call it, vanity. Buying expensive stuff and having a Lamborghini or Bugatti or something like that. Oh, look at me, I'm special because you have something that you overpaid for. Good for you, but I'm not impressed by that. That's why I respect billionaires like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, because they don't try to look like they're rich. They just are. They're rich. Okay, they have a lot of money. Good for them, right? Money is money. It's not that big of a deal. It's what you do with it and how you live your life that's important. So having a lot of expensive stuff does not make you special at all, and it definitely doesn't make you rich. Because God forbid all that stuff you bought, gets stolen, then you're poor instantly, right? I'd rather be rich, in happiness. Rather be rich in whenever I'm hungry, I can always eat. I can always, travel. I can always, have a roof over my head. I can always, work out. I can always watch, whatever I want, movies, anime, whatever. Like, I could just enjoy life, to the fullest without all the extra nonsense, right? So that's all I really wanted to point out is like, you don't need to have $1 million all at once in order to be rich. You can have $1 million throughout a course of 20 years, right? You can spend up to $1 million, for example. And that's the same thing as if you had the $1 million all at once. Because ultimately, all you're going to do is spend that money anyway. So if you had $1 million right now, somebody gave you $1 million right now, by the end of the week or month or even year, you'll probably spend it all. Unless you're, logical and you invest it like I would do, and grow it and make more money so you can always have money, right? That's what you really want, is to make sure you always have money, not just have a lot of it in a bank account just so you can brag about, like, oh, look at me, I got lots of money. Yeah, that's what you got, lots of money. Nothing special about that. Because I always hate when, people who have lots of money, right? Like, let's say millionaires, be on the internet talking about, that, oh yeah, most people out here don't got money, blah, blah, blah. Y'all broke, y'all not living good lives, blah, blah, blah. All this nonsense is incorrect. Everybody out here who has a job or has a way of making or getting money have money. Money does not come in one currency, right? It doesn't come in one, like there's not a single individual $1 million bill, for example, right? Where if you don't have a $1 million bill, you have no money. No, money comes in all different shapes and sizes, right? Nickels, quarters, dimes, $100 bill, right? $10 bill, $20 bill, right? There's an example. So there's different levels to wealth. There's different levels to being rich, right? So I rather, when it comes to money, all I really care about when it comes to money is not having a lot of money. It's guaranteed that I could always have what I need, which is food, shelter, right? Whenever I want to do something, I can do it, right? Without being like, man, I can't go on this trip because I don't have the money, or I don't this, or I don't that. Like, the idea is to get to the point where it's like, okay, I can go on trips because I plan ahead of time to make sure that I can, either by A, having the money for it, or B, getting the tickets, early when they were on sale, right? Get them for 50% off, for example, and then hold on to them until, I want to use them, and be able to cash them in, basically. Plus, there's other ways to get the ability to fly. You could probably find somebody who has a private jet or something like that, and for a small fee, you can use their private jet to travel, right? So, like, basically, Airbnb or Uber, basically Airbnb or Uber, right? You could be like, hey, I need to go from point A to point B. I give you $200, right? If you can take me to point A to point B. And they'd be like, sure, no problem. You can use my private jet to go from point A to point B for $200, because that's money in their pocket, right? And you got to travel. And it's probably cheaper than if you went on a commercial airline, because they have to get a whole bunch of people on the airplane first before the plane flies. But with a private jet, for example, it's just you and the pilot, right? Maybe a stewardess, and that's it. So, that's the way I would like to fly. Just be like, yeah, I want to go get on somebody's airplane. Like Andrew Tate, he might have a private airplane, right? Let me give him, a couple $100. Get on his plane and go from point A to point B. Or like hitch a ride, like that's nothing. Like ride sharing, basically, or air sharing, right? Flight sharing. There you go, flight sharing. Basically, flight sharing, right? Where it's like, there's a private jet. It has a space for 10 people, and I just happen to be one of the 10 people that got on it for cheap and are going to be able to travel from point A to point B. So it'd be a lot faster than if I was trying to, take a regular commercial flight, which will more likely cost more. So the idea is just, reduce the cost of your costs, right? Reduce your expenses, right? Make it where it's cheaper for you to do the things you want to do. I prefer that than, instead of trying to make more money to do the things I want to do, I'd rather reduce the cost of the things I want to do so I can do it. So I'd rather I'd rather buy a Lamborghini for 50% off than to pay full price, right? Let's say the Lamborghini is $250,000. I'd rather spend less than that, right? Half of that, which is $112,000, something like that. Or let's just say $100,000. I'd rather spend $100,000 on a Lamborghini, a used Lamborghini, than to buy a brand new one for like $250K, for example, right? If that mattered to me. I'd rather spend money on having a custom built car, a custom built Tesla, for example, or Cybertruck, than to buy a Lamborghini, but that's just me. But you get the idea. And that'll be the end of the podcast.